Hello, dear friends. Official science surprises us every day with a new finding that confirms intuitions and supposed revelations we had already heard. Meanwhile, signs continue to appear that the world is changing profoundly, deeply. Opinion piece. An unknown force found. A fifth force has been found. Muons work in an anomalous way. It could also be called the fifth element. Could explain the great enigmas of the universe. It doesn't follow the normal model of particle physics. Russia develops a special financial battle plan. Russia and China will not create any military bloc in the East. Explosions at Petróleos Mexicanos refinery in Veracruz. We have been inside the Photon Belt for 9 years and it is showing. We are witnessing the quantum leap of the Earth and humankind. Let's start. Physicists have found possible hints of a new fundamental force of nature. All the forces we experience every day can be reduced to just 4 types: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong nuclear force, and the weak force. However, a group of physicists claimed to have found possible hints of a 5th fundamental force of nature, which could be called the 5th element, and which could help explain some of the great enigmas about the universe that have worried scientists in recent decades. Ancient Greek thinkers believed that the Earth was made of 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire. Aristotle added that the sky was made up of a 5th element, which he called ether. This was involved in the formation of most of the celestial bodies. The latest findings pointing to the possible discovery of a previously unknown subatomic particle may be a proof of the existence of the 5th fundamental force of nature. The finding would help in understanding the dark matter of the universe, says the article published by the journal Physical Review Letters. Early results from experiments at Fermi National Laboratory showed that elementary particles called muons behave in a way that is not predicted by the standard model of particle physics. Particle physics is a branch of physics that studies the elementary constituents of matter and the interactions between them. This branch is also known as high energy physics because many of these particles can only be seen in large collisions in subatomic particles accelerators. At present, elementary particles are classified according to the so-called standard model into 2 large groups: bosons and fermions. Experiment. Early results from the Muons G2 experiments at the U.S. Department of Energy's Fermi National Laboratory, Fermilab, published Wednesday in the journal Physics Review Letters, showed that elementary particles called muons behave in a way that is not predicted by the standard model of particle physics, the current widely accepted theory for explaining how the building blocks of the universe behave. Evidence that muons deviate from that theory's calculation could indicate the existence of exciting new physics, the researcher said in a statement. Today is an extraordinary day, long awaited not only by us, but by the entire international physics community, stressed Graziano Benanzoni, a physicist at Italy's National Institute of Nuclear Physics and one of the lead scientists of the experiment. The Muons G2 experiment involves sending different particles around a 40-meter storage ring and then applying a magnetic field. According to the current laws of physics encoded in the Standard Model, this should cause the muons to wobble at a certain speed, which is described by a number known as the G factor that can be calculated with very high precision. Instead, the scientists found that the muons were wobbling at a faster rate than expected. This could be caused by an unknown force of nature that is completely new to science. What is a muon? A muon is an unstable elementary particle of the lepton group, equally charged to the electron. It is 200 times heavier than an electron, but smaller than an atom, and is normally produced naturally when cosmic rays strike the Earth's atmosphere, but particle accelerators can generate them in large quantities. Like electrons, muons act as if they have a small magnet inside them. In a strong magnetic field, the directions of the muon magnet wobbles, much like the axis of a spinning top or a gyroscope. The muon is an electron-like elementary particle belonging to the second generation of leptons. It has a negative electric charge like the electron, although its mass is 207 times greater than that of the electron, and its lifetime somewhat longer than other unstable particles. It is associated with its corresponding antiparticle called the antimuon. Leptons are part of a family of elementary particles known as the fermion family, as are quarks. As with other leptons, the muon is not known to have any structure. It is to say, it is not believed to be composed of simpler particles. Geopolitics. Tension in Ukraine. According to Dr. Michael Sala, specialist in exopolitics, the Biden administration is encouraging the Ukrainian government to reconquer Russian-speaking rebel areas by military means. This would lead to Russian intervention and further sanctions. The wild card would be NATO intervention and war with Russia. The new US plan to stop Nord Stream 2 would be to stoke a war in Ukraine. The first part was to strangle Crimea by closing its river source inside Ukraine and stoking Ukrainian military action against the Donbas and Lugansk areas. Nord Stream is an offshore natural gas pipeline system installed under the Baltic Sea from Russia to Germany. It includes two active pipelines running from Wyborg to Lubmin near Greifswald, forming the original Nord Stream, and two more pipelines under the construction running from Ust-Luga to Lubmin called Nord Stream 2. Moscow would respond to any hostile action by Washington. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned the US that Russia would respond to any hostile action by Washington and called US policy stupid. Putin warns Merkel of provocative actions by Kiev in eastern Ukraine. Both leaders showed their concern over the escalation of tension in the southwest of the country. On the other hand, Putin drew attention to the provocative actions of Kiev, which has recently been exacerbating the situation on the line contact between Ukrainian troops and militias of the unrecognized Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics. Texas governor tells of abuse, malnutrition at federal migrant facility. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said during a press conference that there were reports of sexual abuse, malnutrition, and a new infections outbreak at a federal facility that houses small migrants in the city of San Antonio. Economy. Europe questions globalization. The health crisis and the blockade of the Suez Canal have strained supply chains. Last spring, European citizens discovered that the European Union was highly dependent of third countries for medical supplies, especially from China, which accounts for 22% of all European imports. And now, a 6-day disruption in the Suez Canal can have consequences that can last for months. The biggest problem is long supply chains, which cause any break in the chain to be amplified and turn into cascading shocks. JP Morgan predicts economic boom throughout 2023. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon expects the US economy to grow steadily with moderate increases in inflation and interest rates thanks to the saving glut and the possibility of large infrastructure investment, he wrote in a letter to the bank's shareholders released Wednesday. Businesses could agree to a 25% tax rate. Biden has advocated raising the corporate tax rate to 28% to primarily fund his infrastructure plan, but said he's willing to compromise and businesses are asking for 25%. IMF raises temporary tax on the wealthiest. The International Monetary Fund has argued that governments in advanced economies should consider imposing a tax on the wealthiest, albeit only temporarily, to deal with the increased public spending that has been generated as a result of the healthcare crisis. A Bitcoin crash could capsize the global monetary system. Bitcoin is not too big to fail, but it could disrupt the global monetary system if it collapses. Mohamed El-Ryan has claimed the cryptocurrency's failure could pose a threat to the liquidity paradigm, predicts Allianz chief economic advisor. PayPal co-founder says Bitcoin could be a Chinese financial weapon against the US. The billionaire warned that Beijing could use Bitcoin to weaken the dollar, and he called on Washington to strengthen cryptocurrency regulation. The Chinese government could be supporting Bitcoin as a way to undermine US foreign and monetary policy, said US billionaire and PayPal co-founder Peter Thiel. Given the situation, Washington should consider introducing stricter regulations on cryptocurrencies, the tycoon added. Spain. The Spanish Treasury expects to place $7 billion in the first bid of April. The Spanish Treasury expects to place today, Thursday, between 5.5 and 7 billion euros in medium and long-term debt in what is the first auction of April. In this auction, the Treasury will auction 4 different denominations of debt: 5-year bonds, 7-year bonds, and other bonds with a residual maturity of 23 years and 7 months. 15 years inflation-linked bonds will also be placed. The IBEX recovers 8,600 points encouraged by renewable energies. European stock markets have been carried away by the trust in the debt favored by the Fed and have closed with advances. The IBEX added 0.47% and regained 8,600 points, once again on the back of its heights for the year, boosted by renewable energy companies. The Valencian paella is preparing to become an asset of cultural interest. The Valencian paella could become, or paella valenciana, could become an asset of cultural interest after the Technical Commission for the Study and Inventory of the Intangible Heritage of the Generalitat Valenciana has decided to approve the process to declare it as such. It give it my unconditional vote, because I like it very much. The Bering Strait was discovered by an Almerian from Berger in 1588. A study collected by the Institute of Almerian Studies suggests that it was an Almerian, Lorenzo Ferrer Maldonado, from Berja, Almería, who discovered the Bering Strait in 1588. Passing through this channel 140 years before that, the man who until now was considered its discoverer, Vitus Bering. This has been communicated by the Deputation of Almería in a note that, through the Institute of Almerienses Studies, Instituto de Estudios Almerienses, has echoed one of the research projects that will chart the history of the Bering Strait, located in the Chukchi Peninsula in Russia. Middle East: 4 military personnel injured in Israeli missile attack near Damascus. Syrian air defense managed to partially repel the attack, which was carried out from the Golan Heights and Lebanon. Syria's anti-aircraft defense systems have responded Thursday to an Israeli missile attack in southern Damascus. Sana agency reports the attack left 4 soldiers wounded and caused material damage. The Lebanese Al-Manar network reported that one of the missiles launched by the Syrian anti-aircraft defense hit an Israeli fighter jet near the Syrian-Israeli border. A family had an immigrant woman as a slave who had to work 7 days a week and sleep for an hour. The woman hoped to earn money to send home for her family, but her wages were barely $2.50 a day. A couple in the Australian city of Melbourne for 8 years allegedly kept as a slave a migrant from India who, due to the amount of tasks assigned to her, slept barely an hour at night, reports the Australian press. China. Taiwan declares that it will defend itself until the last day in case of an attack by China. Taipei stated that 15 Chinese Air Force aircraft entered the island's air defense systems identification territory on Wednesday. Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu said Wednesday that the island will defend itself until the last day if China attacks it. Chinese journalists attacked for exposing forced labor. Vicky Xu, a Chinese researcher and journalist in Australia, known for her reporting on the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, has blamed agents acting on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party for spreading an internet video about her in an attempt to tarnish her reputation. Russia and China will not create an instant military bloc to rival NATO because exclusive clubs are counterproductive, says Lavrov. Despite Moscow and Beijing forging an increasingly close partnership, the two see no potential benefits in establishing a formal alliance, to take on the US-led NATO military bloc, Russia's top diplomat announced. Russia develops financial battle plan in case of Western attack on its economy or sanctions against sovereign debt, diplomat reveals. Moscow is preparing to respond to a new wave of possible US economic and financial sanctions with measures designed to shore up its currency, maintain the flow of payments, and ensure the country can maintain business as usual. South America. Venezuela may index its economy to the dollar. The Venezuelan Parliament's Finance and Economic Development Committee has in its possession a proposal that seeks to turn around the economic crisis the country is suffering with hyperinflation sustained for years and tight financial blockade imposed by the US and the European Union. The proposal was brought to Parliament 2 weeks ago by Congressman Tony Botha, who, together with the other economists, asked to index the economy, that is, to establish a reference index. Explosions and a strong fire at a Petróleos Mexicanos refinery in the state of Veracruz. Pemex reported that there were no deaths of serious injuries. Local media reported a preliminary balance of 6 people with minor injuries. Several explosions and a strong fire broke out this Wednesday afternoon at the Petróleos Mexicanos Pemex refinery located in Manititlan in the state of Veracruz. Kale has become fashionable in recent years as part of the healthy cooking trend that continues to gain followers around the world. This is a type of kale of which the rough dark green leaves are eaten. Pleiadian message. A special message from Vital Frosty. We have been with the Earth solar system within the Photon Belt for 9 years. We have entered an octave of the galaxy. The crystalline light has intensified to the point of illuminating even human consciousness. We are witnessing the quantum leap of the Earth as planet and of the human being as humanity. This cannot even compare to the advances of the last 50 to 60 years. The quantum leap is not a simple advance. It is a real leap, infinitively great, unimaginable even to the most extended consciousness. All this technology involving computing and the internet was brought to us by the Pleiadians, spirits of this Pleiades family, incarnated with such a mission. They came with this knowledge within their consciousness and remembering certain details, were able to create all that has been created and is to come in the coming years. Although we cannot yet understand it, at least we are certain that all is coming for the ultimate liberation of the Earth that has always been under the dominion of the Dark Ones. The Pleiades also has its central sun, Alcyone. It is in Alcyone where the central library is located, where all the memories of every human being, of every event that has occurred on Earth, and of our entire solar system are stored. If any of you are interested, I suggest you read the book The Pleiadian Agenda by Barbara Hunt Clough. She is one of the few Pleiadian contactees among the incarnated ones. In this central library of Alcyone is the record of everything that has happened on Earth since it has existed. There is all your information since you first incarnated on this planet. And best of all, in a few more years you will be able to access all the pages of this book of life of yours. You will be able to see all the events that have taken place here, and even experience real situations like the time of the dinosaurs 165 million years ago. Quantum computer. The Pleiadians have the quantum computer that will manage this final stretch of Earth's transition. Spectrum awesome news. All the evidence against the duck will come as an avalanche. Nothing, but absolutely nothing, will be under suspicion, as all will be documented, tested and proven. It will be the end of the duck on the Earth, definitively. The quantum computer has recorded every conversation of every incarnated person from at least 1950 to the present. It has filmed every movement of every human being. It documented all commercial transactions, business, production, buying and selling of all products. He measured, added, weighted, evaluated and recorded everything. Every financial movement was documented penny by penny. All the money was traced. And now the truth will come out. Where are the licit and illicit values? Who is honest and who is not? And everything that was taken will have to be returned. It will be the end of bribery and corruption. It will be the end of illicit business. It will be the end of trafficking, of organized crime, of the sale of sentences, of corrupt governments, of the financial system that has always exploited humankind. It will be the end of unjust salaries, and also of salaries that barely satisfy the hunger of the miserable. It will be the end of personalities enriched by immoral favors. It will be the end of the financial system as we know it. It will be the end of the sickness industry. It will be the end of criminal organizations, of dominant religions, and of the inefficient educational system. And this will be shown, and no one will be able to deny it, for it is the revelation of the truth. There will be no courts that can dismantle these investigations. Yes, there will be an international tribunal, an international court, which will be activated by the coalition, and which will not be subject to any law known to human beings. It is the end of the partial law that has always reigned on this planet. Universal justice. It is the end of the mold of the Roman forums, where the law is always for others. Now the law will be simply correct. All criminals have given evidence against themselves during these last 70 or 80 years. All of this present generation will be subject to this final tribunal or court. And there is nowhere to run. There will be no government on the planet that can harbor today's criminals. We will finally see justice done. Removing all darkness from Earth will open to the condition to implement the QFS quantum financial system. Also another facet of the quantum computer. It is the end of control by the slavery of labor and debt. Abundance will finally manifest on Earth. No illicit transactions will be possible, because the computer can read even one's intention. This will also lead to another level of humankind. Soon telepathy will be the language used. We will be able to read the thoughts of others because there will no longer be any intentions to hide. Communications will at first also go through the quantum systems. There will be no owners or controllers at today's. Censorship of truth will no longer exist, and nothing that is issued for manipulation will be able to pass through any network, be it social, television, radio, or written. The internet will take a giant leap forward because it will truly serve humankind. New technology. All suppressed technology will be reactivated. There would be the ultimate cure for all ills. The pharmaceutical industry would soon cease to exist as we know it. Hospitals will have free medical beds, and everything we believe about health care will become obsolete. We will discover that we can command cells and they will obey. Everything will be quantum. Everything will be instantaneous. Everything will be able to be printed or created throughout quantum printers. Food, clothes, furniture, and utensils, houses, all the activities that are still needed, in short, even locomotion and later interplanetary travel, everything will be quantum. You are here incarnate at this moment, so be filled with joy. You have the opportunity to experience the great event of Earth's planetary transition. That is what you have incarnated for now. But do not doubt what is to come, for when the time is right, you will be called upon to do your part. As the parable says, there will be some bride who will be unprepared and miss the opportunity to be united with her beloved, with her beloved. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends, and be happy. Thanks a lot.